Good morning, everyone, or good night, good evening. It's 8:15 here on June 6th. Welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi, along with my co-host, good friend here, Jake Daley. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We have a packed show lined up for you guys today. Obviously, we had game one between the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder last night. A phenomenal game one. The Pacers stealing game one in that one. We'll recap that game, as well as touch on some NFL news and across the rest of the associations here from the NHL with the Stanley Cup Finals, UFC. We have a packed show lined up for you guys today. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And as always, everything is greatly appreciated. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to throw those in the chat, and I'll make sure to get to those as soon as I possibly can. But let's get right into it here because we have to get into that NBA Finals game one last night. What a game we saw between the Pacers and the Thunder. Tyrese Haliburton having a phenomenal game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's always the regular season MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP. We waited a week to see the matchup, but we're here now. Jake, what were your thoughts on that game?
Mama, there goes that man. That was my first thing, honestly, is what I thought of is Tyrese Haliburton does it again. This guy, unbelievable. What a run he's had already. And coming off that first half where Indiana, nothing went right. I mean, 19 turnovers. That Oklahoma City defense was just stifling them completely. It just seemed like they couldn't get into any kind of flow on offense, couldn't get anything going. And that kind of carried through to the third quarter. Then we kind of see this little Indiana magic coming back. Fourth quarter, strikes again. We see it again happen. Tyrese Haliburton with another absolutely clutch bucket to give the Indiana Pacers another huge road win, too. This is a big thing, too. This game was not at home, it was in Oklahoma City. I think that's massive. You have a 1-0 advantage, stealing a road game, and kind of kickstarting this NBA Finals in firework fashion. But absolutely incredible game performance overall. How are the Thunder going to bounce back from this? I think is kind of one of the big question marks right now.
1000%. And I think last night's game was so crucial for the Pacers to steal. The way that they've played all playoffs long, they did the same thing to the Bucks. They did the same thing to the Cavs, stealing game two, stealing game one against the Knicks. They've been doing this time and time again and taking early control of the series, especially in the NBA Finals, especially with two young teams, was so crucial. But we have to talk about the man of the hour and Tyrese Haliburton. He had such a quiet game. The Pacers giving up, like you said, 19 turnovers in the first half, 30 turnovers in the entire game. I think it was the highest turnovers in a finals game since like 1990, 1981, I believe. It was just it's a record-breaking game, and everything was going wrong for the Pacers. But their willingness to stay in it, their willingness to keep going, and the way that Tyrese Haliburton was able to carry the offense in the last 5 minutes or so, it just speaks to the way that Tyrese Haliburton is able to lead the team and beyond. What were some of the X factors that you'd say were going through that game, Jake?
Well, so here, there's two stats that I want to point out. One, Indiana going 18 for 39 from the 3 point line, shooting almost 50% from three. Absolutely incredible 3 point shooting right there. And then also rebounds, getting 64 rebounds compared to Oklahoma City's only 47, getting 17 more rebounds than them, kind of dominating the glass. That was huge for this game. And then just the ability to kind of hit clutch shots when it matters. You see some of those role players, the Aaron Nesmiths, the Andrew Nemhards, those kind of guys stepping up. Just incredible, though. 3 point shooting, I think that's absolutely amazing. I don't know if we're going to see that team shoot almost 50% from three again, but it's very possible. I mean, we don't know. Um, but if they're able to kind of keep that up, take some of these easier shots that Oklahoma City kind of seems to be giving them at times, I think that's going to be huge.
1000%. And you brought up the 3-point shooting. When you look at guys like Obi Toppin knocking down 5 threes, you look at Miles Turner hitting a couple massive threes down the stretch. Andrew Nemhard, just what was going through your mind when Andrew Nemhard hit that step back three on SGA and over the, I think it was a minute 30 left in that game. That was a crazy three.
Dude, Andrew Nemhard is so clutch. He is criminally underrated, I think, honestly, right now. The way he's been playing this entire run is out of his mind. I mean, this guy has stepped up, almost become kind of a 2 or 3 option at times for this Pacers squad. And then, like you said, Miles Turner hitting a couple threes, Obi Toppin hitting 5 threes. Obi Toppin, really? Do you think, like, I mean, could you have ever imagined that when Obi Toppin got drafted out of Dayton? You're going to say, yeah, Obi Toppin, that dude's going to hit 5 threes in the NBA Finals. Just you watch. Really? Like, yeah, that he was known for athleticism, kind of driving, getting to the rim. That was his whole big thing. I kind of think that's kind of interesting too, is how these guys' skill sets have kind of developed over time under the tutelage of Rick Carlisle. Having that veteran head coach in there, having a guy that can kind of help Obi Toppin, the Miles Turners of the world, develop this kind of 3-point shot is absolutely crucial. And I'm wondering if coaching is going to be a big factor throughout the rest of the series. We have a extremely experienced head coach in Rick Carlisle with the Pacers, compared to Mark Daigneault with the Oklahoma City Thunder, second-year head coach. So is that going to be a factor too? I think is a very key question.
100%. And when you look at Rick Carlisle, him being in his sixth NBA Finals right now, we obviously remember he won a crazy NBA Finals in 2010 when he led the Mavericks over the Miami Heat. That was one of the craziest upsets that we can think of in recent memory. Rick Carlisle's been in these situations before. He's been in the underdog spotlight, and he's been the underdog all playoffs long with these Indiana Pacers. It's a big reason why the Pacers are where they are today now, and his adjustments have been crucial throughout this playoff run. The last thing I want to say about Andrew Nemhard, I think we know he's one of the better shooters on this team, but what's kind of unsung about him is his defense. His defense against Jalen Brunson in the last round definitely prepared him for this moment against SGA. And SGA had a great game. Still had 36 points in the game. Still was phenomenal. Shot 13 to 27 from the field. Just a great game overall. But when you're able to lock down the team the way that the Pacers did, they took the ball out of SGA's hands. Any SGA's normal calls that he likes to get down the stretch, they didn't give it, and there was no room for error down the stretch of that game. I'm gonna rewind a little bit in that game. Looking back with like 9 minutes or so, the Pacers took a timeout when they went down by 15 points after that Jalen Williams dunk. What were your thoughts going through that going through that moment? And honestly, did you see the Pacers getting this game in any way?
Dude, no way, no shot. Honestly, you have a big time dunk, big kind of momentum change, big time shift in that the energy, just everything, the atmosphere. You have only 9 minutes left. 75% of a quarter left. The last quarter of the game, they're up 15 at home. That should be Oklahoma City done deal, locked and sealed, right? But that's not the case. This Indiana, I keep calling it magic because honestly, that's kind of what it feels like right now. Feels like there's magic in the air surrounding this Pacers team and just this incredible run they've been on. So, no, at that point in time, though, I was like, no, they got this. That's a huge play, big time momentum on the side of the Thunder. But the other flip side of that timeout, you get a chance to regroup as the Indiana Pacers, kind of recenter yourself, say, all right, guys, let's settle down, let's figure it out. And that's what they did. You start to see that kind of comeback coming, slowly chipping away until we see right at the end, just like the last couple times, they take over.
100%. Being able to hang around, just like even with the 19 turnovers in the first half, being able to keep the lead within 10 to 15 points. And that was the one biggest thing that I said going into this series.
Yeah, I was shocked that that they kept it that close in the first half. You have 20 turnovers as a team pretty much, and you still kept it within 10. Well, I can't remember if it was 10 or 12 when they went into half, but it was right around there.
12.
But still, keeping it that close is incredibly impressive considering how badly they were struggling on offense up to that point.
Really, you can't say it enough. And I think this speaks kind of more volume to the Thunder side of things, not being able to take advantage on the turnovers. We'll get into that later on in the show. But the Pacers' ability to keep going in this game, being able to chip away and give Tyrese Haliburton an opportunity in those last 5-6 minutes to go on that 12-2 run over the last 3 minutes and bring this game within 4 points. And then you just see the Nembhard 3. I think their defense was crucial in this one. And this game, I cannot say it enough. The way I was watching this game, I mean it when I say the Pacers had no business winning this game. The Thunder had every part of this game under control, under wraps. The Thunder were controlling the defense. Alex Caruso was playing phenomenal. Lou Dort was playing phenomenal across the board. And then you see the miss. Who was it? Jalen Williams, I think, that missed that shot. Rebound by Siakam. And then it's just Haliburton going the other way with the simple mid-range jumper that we've seen him hit time and time again. And this is now his third game winner in this one. Do you see the Pacers being able to replicate not just a game like this, but do they have an opportunity to win this series now?
Hey, I mean, if we keep doubting them and they keep proving everybody wrong. So I think at this point, yeah, anything seems possible, right? They had no business. Like you said, they had absolutely no business to win this game. They didn't really deserve to win this game, I think. Oklahoma City played so much better, just on both ends of the ball. Their team defense that they kind of displayed was incredible. Some of the best defense I've seen for honestly in a long, long time. But I think if Indiana can win in a game like that, they certainly can win in some of these other games. Maybe not game 2. I think Oklahoma City probably comes back in game 2. But when you get back home in Indiana, in front of your home crowd, and you start playing even a little bit better, you don't have 20 turnovers in the first half. Yeah, I think there's certainly a chance that Indiana can take this series. And I think people's perceptions of it are starting to kind of change a little bit after that game 1 where we saw Tyrese Haliburton. He's that dude.
100%. And Tyrese Haliburton, we're going to get into Tyrese Haliburton and his entire playoff run and how he's been carrying these Cinderella Pacers throughout not only these playoffs, but what to expect from him moving forward in these NBA Finals. But we're going to go away we're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to the Thunder side of things. What went wrong for the Thunder and how did this really go? How were they able what went wrong for them? What went right, but what went wrong for them at the same time? You're watching the GSMC Sports Network, or GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I keep mixing these up because I'm used to talking about the GSMC Basketball Podcast. It's all habit. We're getting used to it, though. This is the first week of this new format. I'm joined by my friend, co-host here with the GSMC Sports Network, Jake Daley. In this next segment here, we're switching gears. We talked about the Pacers in the first segment, talking about Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We're switching gears over to the Thunder side of things. What went wrong for them and how can they bounce back in a Game 2 that's coming up tomorrow night? But before we move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is GSMC Sports Network. It's GSMC Sports Podcast.net for all your questions and comments. But let's get right back into it here because we got to tackle the Thunder side of things. We took a peek at the Pacers in the first segment. Let's take a look at the Thunder. SGA still had a great game last night, and the Thunder led for 46 minutes of this game. But that's not 48 minutes. And the Pacers snuck in a win, taking their first lead of the game with 0.3 seconds to go in this one. A phenomenal game as a whole. And yeah, I'll give it to Jake. What do you think went wrong for the Thunder in this game? And can they figure it out before Game 2?
Yeah, honestly, and one of the big strengths that we always talk about with the Thunder is their bench, their depth, right? And those guys played solid. I think the issue yesterday actually was with the starting five of the Oklahoma City Thunder. You look at, besides SGA, who, yes, had 36 or 38 points, but he also had to take 30 shots to get to that. You look at Casey Wallace, only 6 points. Lou Dort actually had a pretty solid game, had 15. Jalen Williams had 17, but he's only 6 for 9 in getting to that. And he had 4 free throws made too. And then Chet Holmgren, only 6 points, 6 rebounds in 23 minutes played. You got to get more from, your big three, your 2 and 3 kind of guys. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, they have to play better than this. Jalen Williams, he still got his points, but it wasn't in an efficient way. It wasn't kind of what we're used to seeing from him. And then Chet Holmgren just did not look great whatsoever last night. 2 for 9 in terms of field goal attempts. You need more from your big man, from a guy that's uber talented. I mean, this was one of the best prospects we saw coming out of high school and then coming out of Gonzaga too, pretty much in recent memory. This guy is 7'2", but he can do pretty much everything. He needs to start doing some of that everything, I think, right now. You need to get more than 6 points, 6 rebounds from your big guy that really needs to step up. He's critical at this point, too, for this Thunder team. When you look at the Pacers side of things, with Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner making up that front court, it's a very strong front court. You need Chet Holmgren to kind of step up. Last night, when we did not get that from this game. We did not see that in Game 1. That's a guy that needs to step up more in order for this Thunder team to really have a chance to win this NBA Finals.
For sure. And the biggest storyline coming into this game, this is one of the biggest things I was looking forward to in this game. How is Oklahoma City going to deal with the double big that Siakam and Miles Turner pose against a Chet Holmgren, against an Isaiah Hartenstein? We saw Hartenstein go off for 9 points, 9 rebounds, so he had a decent game. But when you bring up Chet Holmgren, he definitely needs to step up in a bigger way. He is a part of that big three in Oklahoma City, and he was a big reason why the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to get past the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you think back to how that Western Conference Finals went down, the first 2 rounds, we saw a lot more team basketball, but in that Western Conference Finals, we saw Jalen Williams step up, Chet Holmgren step up. It looked like that big three was starting to form and figure itself out in Oklahoma City. We were looking forward to possibly them being able to transfer that experience over to the NBA Finals. But both of these teams are definitely incredibly young. And it was honestly one of my biggest concerns about this Thunder team. The experience that these Pacers hold. Pascal Siakam, a former champion, just won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Rick Carlisle, we just brought up in the last segment. Shea is awesome. He's phenomenal. He had 38 points, 3 steals, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. Decent, great, like a decent stat line, but 38 points, obviously the headliner. Lou Dort played phenomenal defense. Alex Caruso played phenomenal defense. But at the end of the day, you have to close against these Pacers. And to do it, everybody needs to step up. It can't just be one guy. And that's the biggest storyline that's going to be moving forward.
Yeah, you brought up Isaiah Hartenstein, and that's a guy that I'm wondering, are they going to start having to play him more? Only got 17 minutes in game 1. This is a guy that's would be a starting center on a majority of NBA teams, honestly. Really talented big, able to do kind of a lot of different things, crafty, but this is a guy, could you start seeing a little more of the Holmgren Hartenstein duo kind of down there, getting some more playing time together, or you kind of start staggering them, but giving Isaiah Hartenstein a little more playing time? I think it's something that does Mark Daigneault have to look at it as a potential option here?
Yeah, and that I 100% agree with you on that one, for sure. Mark Daigneault definitely has his work cut out for him going into game 2. But what do you brought up Jalen Williams, and he's kind of been a key piece to this Thunder team throughout these playoffs. How do you see him stepping up in a game 2? Do you see him? Do you see another guy being the step up? Who do you think are the X factors for this Thunder team going into game 2 tomorrow night?
I mean, I think it's honestly got to be Jalen Williams. We've seen a little bit of inconsistency with him throughout kind of this playoff run. I think a lot of it is his youth, honestly. This hasn't been a Thunder team that's gotten super deep in the playoffs before. These guys haven't really been too battle tested yet. So I think that is kind of part of why we're seeing a little bit of wish-wash, play from Jalen Williams. This is a guy, though, that is an all-star caliber wing. A 6'8" guy can do so many different things. Absolutely incredible scorer when he's going, And I think Oklahoma City needs him to be that guy for this series because, on the other side, it's going to be Haliburton, and then they had Pascal Siakam pretty much as that 1B. Oklahoma City needs that 1B, 2A guy. It's Jalen Williams if everything kind of clicks. I think he's the guy that needs to step up. Yeah, he still had 17 in game 1, but he didn't get it, kind of his normal way. He wasn't super efficient. He was kind of forcing some shots. He needs to be better with that. Just overall, I think, in game 2. And if he can kind of get into that, 23 points, 5-6 rebounds, assists, kind of somewhere around there, that's huge for the Thunder and for their chances of success throughout this finals, I think.
100%. You brought up something really interesting with what you just said. This is a team that's not really been battle tested. And in the Oklahoma City Thunder, who's been their toughest competition? The Denver Nuggets. But this is such a different team than any of the Western Conference teams that the Thunder have faced. Do you think, obviously this is going to sound cliche, but do you think the Pacers this is the toughest competition the Thunder have faced to this point? And do you think their style of play is what's giving the Thunder so much trouble, at least what we saw in game 1?
I think their style of play is probably a very big part of it. Indiana plays so different than anybody else. There's always in transition, always kind of fast-paced offense. That's what we see from the Pacers. You look at Minnesota, they're not like that. Denver, they're not like that. Some of these other teams that the Thunder have kind of deal with all year, they're not the same as Indiana, like you brought up. I think that's certainly probably part of it, just kind of having to deal with a new scheme. I don't know if they're their toughest competition overall. In terms of probably when you look at the makeup of teams, but I think the way they're playing right now, they're certainly their toughest competition, I believe. I mean, getting through Cleveland, getting through New York, getting through Milwaukee, too, in the first round. absolutely critical series wins. And I think that kind of makes them a little more tested, a little more proven right now than Oklahoma City, which is certainly a concern for the Thunder.
For sure. And SGA needs to step up in a big way in these moments. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to continue to move forward with the guys that they're putting. Is SGA going to switch up his game? Are they going to move to more of a more well-balanced offense, get back into that, out of that big three flow that they got in this last series in the Western Conference Finals? I know we brought up the X factors, but do you think, I'll leave it on this note, do you think the Thunder are going to bounce back in game 2?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know once we get to game 3 how things might go, but I think game 2, they're at home. They kind of regroup. They played a really good game 1, honestly, when you look at their overall just kind of game, how they played. This is a team that's going to learn, take from that game 1, and I think kind of apply those lessons to game 2. I think that the Thunder do end up taking game 2, tying this series up and sending it to Indiana, where anything can happen, honestly.
If this series goes back 1-1 back to Indiana,
Exactly.
Indiana is one of
Exactly.
Indiana at home, we keep seeing time and time, we've seen so many highlight clips of it, of how loud that fan base is in Indiana, how they've been all playoffs long. That fan base is going to be rocking on.
I mean, it's Hoosiers. Come on. It's Hoosiers. It's literally Hoosiers. Like, that is the state, you know? Those are the they love their basketball there, and they haven't had a team this good in a really, really long time. So, yeah, that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of fun on game 3, but we got to get to game 2 first.
Absolutely. And we're going to leave it on that note. We'll probably get back into this conversation later on the show, but we're going to put a hold on it for now. I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to some off-season conversation about the NBA. Kevin Durant making some news earlier today, and kind of has been for the last 2 weeks or so now, that the Phoenix Suns are looking to move him before the NBA draft. And if you guys don't know, the NBA draft is literally around the corner at the end of this month. So it is a short timetable for the Phoenix Suns, and we're gonna get deep dive into this conversation with a top tier destination that KD and the Suns could be looking forward to. You're watching the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Network podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. I'm joined today by my co-host and good friend, Jake Daley here. And we're back for a brand new We're back for another segment. In this one, we're going to talk a little bit about Kevin Durant. He's looking to be on the move here throughout this offseason, and the Phoenix Suns have made it known that they're looking to move on from him before the NBA draft, and that's just a couple weeks away now, at the end of this month. And one team in particular earlier today has made some news. They made an offer to him before the end of the trade deadline earlier this season, and the Phoenix Suns said no to that one. But could the New York Knicks be a landing spot for Kevin Durant this year? And what would that do not only for Kevin Durant, but for these New York Knicks after firing Tom Thibodeau, after making their first conference finals since 2000. As a whole, what are you thinking about this one, Jake? Is it a good move? Is it a bad move? Give me your initial thoughts on this one.
AD already went round one with the New York media, with the Brooklyn Nets. Why not go for round two, right? I mean, come on. It's, big time. It's interesting, certainly, I think. When you kind of look at the Suns, it sounds like they really are looking to move off of KD. They're pretty much in cap out right now. It's a rough situation over there with the second apron, with Devin Booker's contract, with Bradley Beal's contract. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Phoenix to try to move off of Kevin Durant when you kind of look at this team. New York makes a lot of sense, actually, when you look at it. The one thing here is the return. And could the return actually be Karl Anthony Towns? When you think about it, in terms of salary, it matches. It gives Devin Booker another kind of guard big duo in Phoenix to pair with. And him and Karl Anthony Towns are famously really, really good friends. Both Kentucky guys have known each other for a long time. So could that be a move here where New York ends up sending their big and Karl Anthony Towns, runs with Mitchell Robinson and Kevin Durant in that front court, along with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson? It's certainly an intriguing team, and I wonder if that makes them more dangerous. But I don't know what you think about that. I just threw Karl Anthony Towns out there because that was one of the names that I kind of thought about. I was like, maybe.
For sure. And honestly, funny enough, that's exactly what the Suns are looking for. They want not only draft capital in this one, but they want a center. What was the biggest problem when we're looking at the Suns team this year? Not only was their defense a problem, but they're rebounding. They're not able to rebound the ball. Other teams are able to get so many offensive rebounds on them, giving the other team so many extra possessions, and extra possessions mean extra points, extra opportunities at the free throw line, extra shots up. That is a recipe for disaster in the NBA, and it was a big reason why the Suns struggled all year long. It looks like the Suns really want, like I said, draft capital, want to build the team once again around Devin Booker. They took the chance on Kevin Durant 2 years ago, and it just looks like it hasn't panned out the way they wanted to. They got bounced out of the playoffs last year in 4 games, or in 5 games, actually. It just doesn't look like it's meshed, and the Suns tried to move off of KD earlier this season. There were talks that the Warriors were involved. Now that there's now rumors that there's now reports actually that the Knicks were also involved in this. And with everything that's happening right now, the Suns want to build this team around this year's draft. And it honestly makes sense with how deep this draft is. LJ Collier, you have a bunch of centers. You have the guy out of Creighton, the center out of Creighton, the 7-footer, who's a phenomenal player there. You have a great draft. You have great opportunities across the board for these Suns to get better. And when you're looking at it, the Knicks need it too. You got Jalen Brunson. If you don't move off of Cat, I don't know how you give up. I don't know how you get a Kevin Durant without giving up a Cat or a Mikal Bridges. But if you can do if you can keep Cat and give up Mikal Bridges, I think you're in a much better spot if you're the Knicks. And it might give you an opportunity to get to the NBA Finals that's eluded you for a while. Give me your thoughts.
Think they give up Mikal Bridges, though?
That's the question. I don't know if they...
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like right now he seems too important to like kind of their team's defense and their identity. What do you got?
Mikal Bridges used to play for the Suns now. He was part of that team that went to the finals.
This is true. You're not wrong there. A little homecoming action.
Possibly, and he was a great defender with the Suns. Exactly what the Suns need right now.
But if you think about it, though, he was also not nearly the offensive player in Phoenix until he got to Brooklyn and kind of blossomed there a little bit. Could he kind of lose that going back to Phoenix? That's maybe another, was it Devin Booker? Was it just some of the other guys? I don't know. Just kind of an option, but certainly, I think it's got to be, though, when you're thinking, it's got to be Cat, it's got to be Mikal Bridges, it's got to be OG Anunoby, pretty much one of those 3.
And then with the picks, I don't know what the Knicks can give up. They just gave up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges this past offseason. So I don't know how much they can give up, but there is mutual interest between KD and the Knicks, and if that is the preferred destination for KD, the Suns will move heaven and earth, because that is one thing that a lot of teams, that's rare these days in the NBA. A lot of teams just don't want KD, plain and simple. They don't want a guy that's 38 years old. They want to build from the draft. They want to build a younger core. They don't want a veteran that's just going to be here for maybe 1 or 2 years left of his prime. He's still a phenomenal player and still was a 27 point per game scorer this year. But when you're getting up there in age, a guy that did have an Achilles tear 5 years ago, and I know it was 5 years, but still, major injury. You have to think about how much you have left in the tank. So that's my key worry when it comes to KD. But with the new regime and Jordan Ott as the new head coach set up there in Phoenix, I think you're right with Cat. Cat's definitely the eye candy. But if the Knicks can find a way and get Mikal Bridges off that team for a Kevin Durant, I think that's an unbelievable upgrade, and it puts him in a better spot.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder too, though, does Kevin Durant kind of come in and want to be the main guy? Is that something he's looking for? And if he goes to New York, there's kind of a pecking order. It's pretty much Jalen Brunson and everybody else. Could that kind of change the dynamic a little bit? Also think about it. This is a guy that has never won an NBA championship as the best player on this team.
100.
He won with the Warriors, but he wasn't the main. That was Steph's team, completely. This guy hasn't won on his own. I'm a big Kevin Durant fan. He's one of the best players, for a generation, completely. Probably the best player of his generation, realistically, or kind of that right around there. But do you want him? You kind of said a lot of NBA teams don't want him, and I think those are kind of some of the reasons why. But the Knicks are certainly intriguing. I wonder who they're going to hire, too, as their head coach. That's going to play a factor here, too, I think. When you're getting a head coach, you're going to want a guy he's going to have a specific style, specific system that he wants to run, most likely. And do they even want Kevin Durant? And also, how much say is this new head coach going to have is another factor. I think there's a lot of kind of moving parts right now around this whole situation. But like you said, they want to get it done by the draft. We'll see. It's only a couple weeks away.
Exactly. And that's the question mark. That is the timetable that's going to put the pressure. That is the pressure cooker on this situation. That's why it's becoming so it's being reported more and more day by day, it feels like. But I think you brought up a great point. If you're a head coach and you want to say Jay Wright's interested, he hasn't been in any head coaching position for the last 4 or 5 years now since he retired from Villanova. If they say bring in Jay Wright, does Jay Wright accept the job before Kevin Durant's even on the team or whoever's there? Does anybody accept that position before Kevin Durant is there? Is Kevin Durant going to be an issue in that head coaching search? So I don't know what you're going to do if with Kevin Durant. There's a lot to do with this situation. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be talking about this for days to come. But who would you like to see Kevin Durant join? If there's a team that you would like to see him join, who would it be, you would say? Just off the top of your head.
I think Houston's really intriguing. You have a lot of young guys there. You have enough tradable assets. But if you pair him with Alperen Sengun, with Amen Thompson, with Van Vliet, some of those other guys, keep Dylan Brooks, that was a really good Rockets team that had a great season. Honestly, I think it was almost a year earlier than a lot of people were projecting. This is a team that has a ton of young talent, right? Jabari Smith, too. Tari Eason. I'm just thinking of more guys. Reed Shepherd, and didn't even play that much. This is a really talented team, and I think if you add kind of a Kevin Durant to give them kind of that go-to scorer, a guy that can be an alpha at times, and kind of a veteran to show these young guys the ropes, show them the way of how to be successful in the NBA, and also just on the court. That makes them a much feistier, more competitive team. I think that's certainly kind of an intriguing option, and I think that would be kind of a fun landing spot right now for Kevin Durant.
For sure. Imagine Kevin Durant rolling with that offense. It feels like the Rockets, they're in that new style of the NBA. They're just like the Thunder. They're just like the Pacers. They love to move fast. They play incredible defense, and they're full of depth, but they're missing that key scoring leader. And Kevin Durant could be that answer. So that could be that honestly, I like that. I like that a lot. I honestly personally would love to see him with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Him, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, the way that he was playing all season long with the pieces that they have around there. I think with Chris Finch, I think that would be a phenomenal landing spot for KD, and it would be interesting. The one thing that I have that worries me about KD is how is he going to be able to play exactly what you said, play as a number 2 option. Is he going to be able to play as that number 2 option, taking the ball out of his hands? Because these teams, he's at the age to the point where, especially if he joins like a New York Knicks, a Minnesota Timberwolves, where he's going to be playing off of those star players because those star players own that team. It is their team. You're just joining it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all rolls, how that all shapes up. But like I said, we're going to be here. We're going to be talking about this for a long time to come. And the draft is right around the corner. So get ready to go. But I'm going to leave it there because do you have any final notes on that one? Perfect.
I think that's a good spot.
There we go. We'll leave it on that note. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears from the NBA over to the NFL. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers joining the Black and Gold in Pittsburgh yesterday, finally making that deal official, something that's been in the works forever now, finally making it official. We'll discuss how it's all going to shape up and give a season outlook for these Pittsburgh Steelers. You're watching the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi, filling in for the normal host, Jeremy Lapidus. But we're here today. Jeremy's feeling a little bit under the weather at the moment, feeling a little bit sick. But we're back in it. We got Jake Daley with us here today, and let's get it going. Let's get right back into it.
We're rolling with it.
We are rolling with it. In our next segment here, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers joining the Black and Gold in Pittsburgh and what it really means for these Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a little bit of a lateral move for these Pittsburgh Steelers? Are they going to be able to, is there any growth to be seen here in general? Give me your thoughts on this, Jake. What are your thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers trade, on the Aaron Rodgers signing yesterday?
I'd love to be the Jake Daley signing, but maybe another life. Hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers just love to keep treading water, right? This kind of seems like just more of the same from what we've seen the past 5-10 years, maybe from Pittsburgh. They're gonna be a fringe team like they have been. Another 9-8, 10-7 year. This isn't a move that's going to move the needle for Pittsburgh. Yes, they've had some really poor quarterback play over the past couple of seasons. But mind you, Aaron Rodgers hasn't really been a great quarterback the past couple of years he's played. Rough year with the Jets last year. Also has that Achilles. He's only a few years removed from that Achilles injury. This is a guy that when you're bringing him into your locker room too, people don't seem to love him. I'm not going to say anything stronger than that, but he's a very strong personality, a guy that kind of commands a lot of attention. I also don't know how that fits with the Steelers locker room. That's very much a culture franchise. Pittsburgh Steelers, it's tough, it's hard-nosed, it's gritty, kind of put your head down, go to work vibes. That's not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, very much different. How much does he even really have left in the tank right now, too? This guy, almost 40 years old, had a major injury a couple years ago. Also, the past few years, he's been a quarterback, hasn't been a great quarterback. So I don't know if this actually really improves Pittsburgh at all. If anything, I think it almost might be a little bit of a downgrade. Yes, they were going to start Mason Rudolph, and I know a lot of people are not, big fans of Mason Rudolph. And I'm not a huge fan either, but he's a serviceable quarterback and a guy that Pittsburgh really likes having in their room. He's been around there 5-6 years now. Kind of keeps bringing him back. He left for a year, got re-signed by Pittsburgh. So this is a guy they're very familiar with. I almost feel like Mason Rudolph having a year there, and then maybe you throw Will Howard in at the end of the year, but having Mason Rudolph there, they probably could have had the same result, if not maybe even better, than having Aaron Rodgers there. I just don't know if this move actually improves them whatsoever. And it's going to be interesting too, I think.
1,000%. I think you brought up a lot of great points there. I think, first off, Aaron Rodgers is about to turn 42 years old. And it's not like we just saw him do what Tom Brady did when he was 41. It's not like we just saw him win a Super Bowl with the Jets, like Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. This is a guy that just came off 2 years ago when tearing his ACL. Just came back, sped up his recovery, whatever you want to call it. Has a lot of, is a little bit, like you said, with the culture that's there in Pittsburgh, could be a little bit of an issue in that culture. How is Mike Tomlin going to be able to handle that? And especially with Mike Tomlin being on the hot seat like he has been over the last few years now. A lot of people are saying that Mike Tomlin should be fired, that it should be time to break up the team, that it should be time to bring in a new time to finally start saying, scrap this old team. Let's just restart the whole program. What are your thoughts on that, Jake? And is this going to be an issue with that?
See, I am not a fan whatsoever of the fire Mike Tomlin train. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's unbelievable. This guy has never had a losing season as an NFL head coach. Not once in 20 years. I mean, even with, retirements and team changes and regime changes, still has never had a losing season. How do you fire a guy like that? I mean, personally, if I was a Steelers fan, I'd be really happy. I mean, you're a playoff team every year. That's their big complaint right now, is that they're a playoff team every year and they lose in the first round.
At least you make the playoffs.
Yeah, right? At least you're there.
Exactly.
But I think, too, with Aaron Rodgers, you kind of talked about the locker room a little bit. Cam Hayward, like a month and a half ago, he came out basically putting Aaron Rodgers on blast. He kind of had comments where he's like, I don't care about anybody. That's not, if you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here kind of thing. A little veiled, directed target at Aaron Rodgers there. I think that's going to be interesting. And Cam Hayward, that's like the ultimate Steeler. This is a guy that team captain. When you think of the Steelers, you think of Cameron Hayward. That's one of those guys that just black and gold all day. When you have a guy like that saying stuff about a quarterback before he's even brought in, and now you bring him into that locker room, that's going to be really interesting to see how he kind of meshes with that team culture, kind of the personalities in that locker room. I think it's going to be interesting. And then also, you make the big swing with the DK Metcalf trade, right? You bring him in to pair with George Pickens. Does Aaron Rodgers even have the arm strength to get it to two deep threats in George Pickens and DK Metcalf right now? I mean, those guys, when you think about it, they're burners. They're throw it 40 yards down the field. They'll go up and catch it. Athletic guys, able to make contested catches. Is Aaron Rodgers even able to do that anymore? Honestly, does he still have the arm strength? I mean, this is a guy that when he was at the peak of his talents, unbelievable quarterback, one of the best I've ever seen. Is he even that guy anymore? Can he really utilize and maximize the talents on this Pittsburgh Steelers offense?
I mean, we have to give the Pittsburgh Steelers one thing. They have a better offensive line than the Jets have, right? We have to give him that.
That's true. Yeah.
He's not getting hit
Still
as
a little
much.
shaky, but
Still a little shaky. Definitely very young on that left tackle spot. But when you look at this Steelers spot, you have a good running back. The one thing, I don't know why they gave up George Pickens to Dallas. That still boggles my mind. You bring in Aaron Rodgers. You bring in DK Metcalf to pair with George Pickens on both sides, which would have been a crazy deep threat on both sides. And then you get rid of Pickens. And so now you just leave Calvin Austin on the other side, which, I don't know. That's another conversation for another day. But when you see guys like Casey Hayward coming out and saying that, you see guys like Deshaun Elliott that just recently came out in February that said pretty much leave your behind at the retirement home. And you know what I'm saying, but I'm not saying it because we're on the YouTube airways here. We keep it PG. But when we're looking at Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers is just, he's getting up there with age. You want him to just be there as a game manager. I get that. But why wouldn't you just keep a Russell Wilson to be there? The only thing I can think of to maybe even justify it, this does not justify it. But this little grain of hope that I have is the way that Jordan Love was able to work under Aaron Rodgers before and blossom into a great quarterback. Is this just pretty much a Band-Aid for Will Howard's time to take over the offense? Or is that just a pipe dream that I'm just saying? I don't know. By your facial expression, it looks like it.
no, man. Will Howard, hey, he won a national championship. I'll give him that. But do I ever trust him being an NFL starting quarterback? No, I do not. I think this is more, maybe anything, indicating for the 2026 quarterback class. I've kind of previewed it a little bit on the college football show, but this is an extremely deep, talented 2026 class with a ton of top tier passers. Obviously the big name, Arch Manning. But then you have guys like Drew Aller, Cabe Klubnik, Lenoris Sellers, all eligible to come out. There's a Garrett Nussmeier, another one. There's probably 8 or 10 quarterbacks that are legit options, at least going into the season and the preseason right now. Could this be a move where Pittsburgh maybe goes, we won't be great in 2025, so that, they get one of those guys in the first round and draft that quarterback of the future? I think maybe that's also a possibility of kind of the reasoning and thought process behind this.
For sure. I could see that 100%. And do you think that's where we're going to go with this next? Do you see the Steelers even making the playoffs? Especially, I think I know exactly what you're going to say, because this AFC North is that crazy. And this AFC in general is that crazy. But give me your thoughts really quick. Do you see any smidge of hope that the Steelers can make the playoffs and make any noise?
We talked about it before we got on the air. It's the black and blue division, man. It beats you up. You have Cincinnati going to be improved. They got some questions on the defensive side of the ball. Then you have Baltimore. Baltimore, legit Super Bowl contender. That's a team that's stacked across the roster. So I think Baltimore wins the division this year. Then you kind of have a curious debate between them and Cincinnati. Cincy's offense, obviously, it's going to be supercharged, but they also might give up 45 points a game. Looking at some of the guys that have left on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to see another Mike Tomlin year. We're going to see another 9-8 year, right on the cusp. I just don't know if they get in. I think also with the AFC West this year, too, you look at that division, Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs, and a Raiders team that's going to be much improved. I think they're going to be in there. And then in the South, you have Houston, if Jacksonville can kind of bounce back. That's another option. Then in the AFC East, I think that's Buffalo right now. But Miami certainly, if they kind of everything shakes out right, they certainly could have a wild card spot too. So I just don't know. I don't think that the Steelers are going to get one this year. I don't see it happening. certainly a possibility. We're going to see another Mike Tomlin year. If they somehow lose double-digit games, I'm going to be shocked. Absolutely shocked. But I just don't know if they have enough to make the playoffs this year with kind of how stacked the rest of the division and the rest of the conference is, really.
100%. I'm right there with you. I think we're going to see it's going to be very close. If the Steelers can somehow sneak into the playoffs, I think that's a success. I think I'm right there with you, though. 8-9, 9-8. They're going to be sitting somewhere around there, especially with that packed AFC North, like you said. I just hope if they have a bad season, I hope we don't see the end of the Mike Tomlin era in Pittsburgh. I have a bad feeling we might see it, but do you think there's any way that if they have a bad season that they might move on from Mike Tomlin?
I think there is a way, and it's crazy to say that. But honestly, I do kind of think the pressure right now from the Pittsburgh fan base, I will say, is unbelievable. I have a lot of buddies that are Steelers fans, a lot of people that are kind of tuned into that area. A lot of people want Mike Tomlin gone, and don't kind of discount the fan base. If we see, Pittsburgh really start struggling throughout this year, if we see a 6-11 kind of season, I think it's certainly very possible that Mike Tomlin is gone as the head coach of the Steelers. I don't think it would be the right move, but I think it's certainly a possibility, just kind of looking at some of the outside noise, some of the other factors there.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I'm going to leave it on this note. I think for a quarterback, I'm going to ask you this question right after. I think if they have a bad year and Aaron Rodgers struggles, Aaron Rodgers retire. Just call it a career. Please just put it down. But if you go out there and get a quarterback, if Will Howard is the dud that a lot of people are not a dud, but just the backup not the startable quarterback out there, I would love them to go out there and get a guy like LaNorris Sellers, man. LaNorris Sellers, the dual threat quality that he holds in South Carolina right now, if he can continue on that track, I think...
I'm going to throw another name out there, too. How about you get the in-state kid in Drew Aller, keep him there, 6'5", 235, kind of develop him for that AFC North hard, physical, bruising style of football. That's certainly an intriguing option, too, I think.
The hometown.
LaNorris Sellers, obviously, that dual threat ability is unbelievable. Absolutely electrifying. But it's interesting, There's a little debate that could be had.
For sure. The hometown kid, honestly, I love the hometown kid debate. I love that idea. I think we'll see how Drew Aller is.
I will say, Drew Aller is a Cleveland kid, though. So could the Browns maybe be an option there? Bring the kid back to the Northeast Ohio area.
See, I don't think the Steelers would love that. The Browns would love it, but I don't know if the Steelers would. I think Penn would hold it against them if he had to do that. But we'll leave it there. We're talking a year ahead of its time. There's going to be so much. We have to go through the whole college football year before we get there. But we'll leave it there. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears back over to the NBA. We talked about the NBA playoffs. We talked about the NBA finals, both sides of things. Let's recap the Haliburton storm that's been going on in the NBA playoffs, because these Cinderella Pacers would not be the same without Tyrese Haliburton. In this segment here, next segment, we're going to switch gears and we're going to recap how these Cinderella Pacers have been playing and discuss Tyrese Haliburton. Is this one of the craziest playoff runs that we've seen so far, not only in the current NBA, but in all-time rankings? You're watching the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Keep hitting that. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi, filling in for the normally Monday to Friday you're expecting my man Jeremy Lapidus to be here in my chair. But Jeremy, unfortunately, sick for today. I'm filling in for him for now. But I still got my main man, Jake Daley, here with me, my co-host here, one of the co-hosts here at the GSMC Sports Network. And yeah, let's get right back into the action here. In our next segment here, we're going to switch gears back over to the NBA, and we're going to discuss Tyrese Haliburton, what to expect, and we're going to recap his playoffs, how he's been playing all playoffs long, and how he's been having one of the craziest playoff runs so far in recent memory. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that right now, Jake? And especially with that NBA Finals win last night. What do you think? How do you think this is going to continue cementing Tyrese Haliburton's legacy in Indiana?
Say, if the Pacers end up winning this finals, Tyrese Haliburton is going to have a statue there in Indianapolis. He's going to be cemented for this all-time playoff run. You look at every series in this run to the NBA Finals, at least one game winner. Every single series, one huge critical moment. You look at the Bucks game, last game, clinching overtime. Unbelievable. Then you go to Cleveland. You win a game. You hit a game winner there. Then you hit that incredible game-tying shot. Send the New York game to overtime. I swear that ball hung in the air for like 3 seconds. I was watching that, and it was like, and then you had to watch it come down, and it was like slow motion. Like almost something out of a movie scene, I swear. And then last night, you hit that unbelievable. You continue this streak of every single series stepping up in these critical moments. Indiana would not be anywhere near the NBA Finals without Tyrese Haliburton right now. You look at the moments too when those shots were hit. Crucial swing points for these series in every single one of them, pretty much. This guy, he's on an all-time run, absolute tear, and I'm just wondering what he's going to do next at this point, really.
He really is one of the most exciting players in the NBA right now, and you bring up him in the New York Knicks, what he did in Game 5. That was one of the craziest, it was Game 4, if I'm thinking correctly.
4, I believe.
No, it was Game 2. You know why? Because Game 4 was back in Indiana. It was Game 2 when they went up 2-0 in that series. Nobody was expecting Indiana to win that game. Indiana was trailing similarly to last night, funny enough, just getting absolutely killed on all sides, on all parts of this game. And they just kept hanging around, and the way that Tyrese Haliburton was able to take over that game, the way that Tyrese Haliburton took over, my first memory of Tyrese Haliburton so far in these playoffs, think back to that Cavs game where he got the rebound and just flew right back over to the three-point line and just hucked up that shot. Nobody expected him to make it. Nobody expected him to show up. That was probably the first crazy Hallie moment that we've seen. But yeah, when you think of Tyrese Haliburton, what he's meant to this team, if he wins a championship, could it propel him to that spotlight of the best pacer of all time? Could he eclipse the great Reggie Miller in that standpoint?
He's got a lot of work to do, man. I don't know. Yes, obviously bringing an NBA championship to Indiana, to the Pacers organization, would be kind of the trump card, right, over Reggie Miller. But when you look at what Reggie Miller's done for the Pacers organization, I don't know if Haliburton's there just yet. I think if they do win this finals, it certainly puts them right next to Reggie Miller. I think that's almost 1A, 1B kind of conversation. And then over, if they have a couple more runs over the next couple of years, at least just kind of deep playoff runs, he's certainly going to surpass him at that point. I don't know if he's there just yet. I think if he wins, then we kind of have a conversation where it's much more of a toss-up But man, Reggie Miller, he was that dude too. Don't forget about that. That guy, he could play some ball. Yeah, oh,
Throwing up
exactly.
the choke from
And
back.
then Haliburton.
And
Hey, I called that one in our production meeting. I will say, I was like, Haliburton, he's gonna get his moment in New York, kind of become that villain there. So
you did.
I'm
You
gonna
did.
tap my yeah, yeah, dude. But this is unbelievable run from just the confidence too that Tyrese Haliburton's showing right now. One thing that I kind of wonder about is what do you think his ceiling is at this point? Because before I was kind of always like he's gonna be kind of a fringe all-star type, but I mean with this run right now, I don't kind of know where the ceiling is. So I was just wondering what you thought about that.
See, the one thing I think his ceiling now, I think he turns into the modern day. He's not the exact because his build is so much different than almost any other point guard that we've seen. Tall, skinny. Usually we've seen guys 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", max 6'3". But Tyrese Haliburton's what? 6'6", 6'7", tall, able to shoot, able to pass, plays like a small forward, but can handle the ball like literally anybody else, any other great point guard in the NBA today. I think his ceiling really could be a Steve Nash, Jason Kidd-esque player. The problem is those guys never won championships. Jason Kidd won one. Steve Nash never won a championship. When you look back in history, guys like this don't usually win it. But the team that is around Tyrese Haliburton right now, I said this I said this 2 months ago on my show, and I don't know if anybody saw it, and we'll see. People are gonna see it now. I'm gonna say it again. You're probably gonna give me a crazy face. Get ready. Tyrese Haliburton is the Magic Johnson. Take away Magic Johnson's defense. Take away the defense. Think about him as passing, his finishing, his scoring ability only. He is the modern day offensive Magic Johnson. The way he's able to pass, footwork, make the guys around him better, get them open shots, finish at the hoop. That scoop last night, late in that game, phenomenal finisher, phenomenal shooter, showing up in clutch moments time and time again. So just give me. I know you.
My comp that I had in my head, I think of Penny Hardaway. Very kind of similar to tall, lanky point guards that can kind of have a really well-rounded, all-faceted game. That was kind of the name that was popping up in my head. Magic, that's out there, yeah. But hey, I'll give you your props though. You know, there's some valid points there. There's certainly a conversation.
When you got a guy that can go for 10 to 15 assists a game, can go up for 10 plus points whenever he wants, that triple double that he had against the Knicks in game one, where he had 30, 12,
32,
15,
12,
0 turnovers.
15, yeah.
When you see games like that, you don't. That was like I think that's the second game in history where a guy had a triple double with 0 turnovers, and the only other guy is Nikola Jokic, who's arguably in the conversation right now as one of the best centers of all time. When you're getting into that type of conversation, that is the time where I obviously can't say he has Magic's defense because that is a whole other debate. I'm not saying that. But just his offense, the way he's able to play, make the guys around him better. Just look at the Pacers right now. It's a bunch of role players, a bunch of cast-offs. Aaron Nesmith, Boston didn't want him. Obi Toppin, New York didn't want him. Pascal Siakam, the Raptors were ready to move on from him. Even Haliburton, the Kings were fine to move off from him to get Domantas Sabonis. These are a bunch of guys that just didn't really have homes in the NBA that are just, they found a way to pool it together and make a team that they have now in the NBA Finals. It's crazy. It is so crazy, the NBA world that we live in.
I like that narrative. I never thought the cast-off narrative, which is true. Honestly, when you think about it, all these guys kind of, didn't really find their spots, kind of moved around the NBA. Miles Turner, even though he'd been on Indiana forever, every single year you see Miles Turner in the trade rumors. It was like clockwork, man. It was like, all right, who's Miles Turner gonna go to this year? You know, it was kind of a fun little game of, all right, when's Miles Turner actually gonna get traded? Never happened, but these guys all kind of have come together to create this cohesive unit that's so incredible and so much fun to watch. And I just think this finals too is an incredible matchup of two really great teams. I'm really excited to see how it kind of progresses from here, honestly.
It really is crazy. And if they can capture a championship, this is personally, if they win a championship, this might be my favorite title ever. Like one of my favorite teams that I've watched play that won a championship. I thought the Mavericks were one of my favorite teams last year. Even though I'm a Celtics fan, I really loved that Luka Doncic-led team with Kyrie Irving and the three centers that they had there. I thought that was probably one of my favorite teams. This would trump that. This really would. This is another level of Cinderella story. Let me know your thoughts on this. You're a college football guy. You've watched a lot of college sports. Does this NBA Finals kind of have a little bit of a NCAA tournament-esque feel on it? Is it just me?
Dude, completely. No, completely agree with that. It kind of does feel like a little Cinderella, like a little 15 seed St. Peter's.
Loyola Chicago from back in the day?
Exactly. It does kind of feel a little similar to that of just, all right, they're not going to get through this round. Wait, they beat the Bucks. Wait, they beat the Cavs. Wait, they beat the Knicks. It's just every single series we just kind of start seeing more and more belief into this Indiana team. And it does kind of have that little kind of Cinderella March Madness magic feeling, I think, certainly. It's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. It's a great time. And these NBA Finals, these NBA playoffs have been some of the best that I've seen so far in my time watching the NBA. It has been so unbelievable to watch. And we got game 2 lined up for tomorrow. I cannot wait for that game. But I'm going to put a pin in it right there, because we got to keep going on with the show. That is enough NBA Finals talk, and we're going to leave it there. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears back over to the NFL. Flag football finally being announced in the Olympics come next year. Should the NFL allow its players to play in the Olympics? Because at the end of the day, this is one of those sports that can be injury. There's a lot to discuss in this, and I'm going to leave it at that. We're not going to get into it. I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to discuss the NFL flag football in the Olympics. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some loose shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. I'm joined today by my co-host and good friend here, Jake Daley, and we're going to jump right back into the action here. We talked a lot about the NBA Finals so far, talked a bunch about the NBA. Let's switch gears back over to the NFL. They made some news. There's been in the news for about the last 2 months now that flag football has finally been announced in the Olympics, and it's going to be coming in the 2028 Olympics held in LA. There's been a lot of controversy as to should the NFL allow its players to join the league. There's been a lot of controversy about the MLB, the NBA for years. The NHL has been involved in it in their league across the board. NHL way less, but across the board, there's been a lot of controversy as to if players should go from the professional stage take some time off and just go straight into the world stage. What are your thoughts on this, Jake? And should the NFL allow its players to join this new flag football in the Olympics?
Yeah, I don't know. And it has been announced that the NFL did approve this, so it is going to happen as of right now. But I think there's certainly still a debate to be had. From an excitement standpoint, from a fan standpoint, obviously you would love to have the NFL send their biggest, brightest stars, kind of show up on the world stage and frankly dominate. But at the same time, do we really need to send NFL stars to the Olympics for flag football? Because honestly, outside of probably Canada, maybe some of the European teams that have kind of developed some NFL Europe, maybe some of those countries, but outside of the couple of countries, who is really going to compete with us, with the United States in flag football? Realistically, I honestly think we could send some of the best high school athletes in the nation right now out there and probably still win a gold medal. I don't love the idea of the NFL sending their best players to the Olympics. I think if anything, I would probably rather see like backups or something like that, just because think of what happens if Justin Jefferson in a group game for flag football tears his ACL against Brazil while winning 35-0. What's the impact of that on the NFL?
That's the concern. That is exactly the concern. And honestly, when you think about it, it's a similar way that the NBA has concerns. The NBA players don't play in the All-Star game. Why? Because they don't want to get injured. The only thing I will say is when you're on the world stage, there are some teams I think that could compete. The problem is the US is just going to obliterate everyone. There's like a 15% chance of another team winning. And who is that? Australia, maybe. Germany, maybe. These are the only two teams that I can think of off the top of my head. And even then, this is the United States where the NFL was created. That's been around for 50 plus years now. What is it going to be? 56? Super Bowl 56 coming up this year? It's been around for so long. I think the NFL owners are going to be the biggest ones that are going to step up and have an issue with this because of the amount of guaranteed money that they're pooling into these contracts. There is no way that some of these guys that they're paying, they're going to let go play in the flag football league and possibly get injured. That feels like what's going to be the issue. The NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, is going to say, sure, go play. What's the problem? But the owners are going to be the ones that stand in the way, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, if it was me, what I would do is send college kids. Why not? You have 130 some FBS football programs, and then you have all of FCS, all of Division II, all of Division III. You could find some guys in college that are going to be like, yeah, I want to go play in the... You can get some really great... Think of a Jeremiah Smith or a Caleb Downs right now on a flag football team. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah, so I think from a name brand point of view, I certainly see why the NFL wants this. You expose your best and brightest, kind of help expose American football a little more to the broader world stage, to the point where obviously it's an American game. I mean, it's an American game. We all kind of know this, but can the NFL kind of use the flag football and use some of their stars, utilize them to kind of bring attention to American football more on a world stage? I think that's kind of the plus of this. I just wonder too, who would you even bring? Like, who would you bring on the team? There's only 12, 15 spots too. Yeah. So
I think at the quarterback spot, it's pretty much a lock that we're bringing Lamar Jackson. If we're thinking the best team, Lamar Jackson is going into that spot. If we want to think college, I think an interesting player to put there. Funny, we were just talking about him, Lenore Sellers. He would be a phenomenal spot there. The dual threat that he poses, running the ball, throwing the ball, I think for sure.
Here's my question. Would you rather have Lamar, who obviously great dual threat, or Kyler Murray? Because Kyler Murray when you think about too, kind of the elusiveness you need, the more quick kind of movement, that's Kyler Murray. I mean, it's a 5'8" quarterback that's kind of, I love watching him run. I just think it's hysterical. His little legs kind of go across, but I mean, still so fast, and it just kind of seems like he's just moving right along. But that's kind of a guy though that I almost feel like would be a better fit than Lamar at quarterback. That's kind of more of a toss-up, but definitely a guy that would kind of fit that flag football landscape, I think.
Also, the way that Kyler Murray can sling it, he's more accurate than Lamar is. Unfortunately, no hate on Lamar, but Lamar definitely still has the accuracy problem. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. He's worked on it a bit. He's improved.
You might get some hate for that one there.
Hey, I'm just pointing out. I no hate on Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews play. At the end of the day, when we're looking at this rate, when we're looking at Kyler Murray, I think you could 100% put him in. He's definitely more elusive. He can throw the ball farther, so I can 100% see that argument for Kyler. For wide receiver, I would 100% put Tyreek Hill in. I think that's a no-brainer as well. Tyreek, put in another, if you could bring a big guy, big receiver like a DK Metcalf, like an AJ Brown possibly, to be dynamic like that, I think that could be crucial.
I think Jamar Chase would be elite in flag football. Just his quickness, his change of direction, the way he can cut upfield right away after catching the ball. Think of when he takes a 5-yard slant, 75 to the house.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach that. I mean, and then running back too. Do you even bring a running back? You're not running that much in flag. Do you bring a running back, or do you go with a guy like Isaiah Worthy? Just pure speed.
I think
a guy that one of those kind of bring John Ross back, throw him in the Team USA uniform.
What did he run? A 4.2, 4.3, 40? Bringing him in?
4.28, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, I think if you brought either one of those two guys, if you want to bring a real running back, I think 100% you bring in Saquon. Hot take, and I know one of my buddies is in the chat right now, so I know he's going to say something about it. Logmeister, I don't want to hear it. I think you bring in a Kenneth Walker. I'm sorry, the way that he's a small running back, he's elusive, he's quick. I think you bring him in if you really want a good running back like that. But other than that, I think outside of that, if you want to do that, I think I like your game plan more. Bring in an Isaiah. The name just slipped my mind.
Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Bond type kind of guy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy, John Ross, one of those guys like that. That's really quick, that can play phenomenally down the field. I think those two guys would be phenomenal. But outside of that, there's no offensive line. There's no tight end spots, right? Or it's not even been said yet.
I want to say it's 7-on-7.
I think it is 7.
I can't remember.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I have to double check the rules on that one, but
yeah, I think you're right. But another player that you 100% bring in, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter in this game would be crazy, being able to play on both sides.
I think you have to. You could. Well, and that's the other thing is you kind of need guys to play both ways. So could you kind of have maybe a cornerback playing wideout? Could you have a wideout playing corner? Think of Justin Jefferson guarding other wide receivers,
Jalen Ramsey playing wide receiver.
Give me a Tyreek Hill cornerback rep. I just want to see that.
I think I could catch a ball over Tyreek Hill.
Dude, I don't know, man. That's still an elite athlete, though.
I think
That's a guy that I got hands though, so I don't know. You
could too.
I could get
But yeah, this is going to be an interesting standpoint. I think the goal of the NFL with this is going to be they want to rebrand the NFL. They want to expand it overseas. That's 100% what you're doing here. You bring the NFL overseas to the Olympics. It's not specifically football, but it's flag football. You're putting the sport on showcase in front of the world to see. And that's exactly what you want to do if you want to continue to brand the sport. But yeah, do you have any more thoughts on that? Honestly, I don't think there's much more to talk. Yeah. We're going to leave it on that note. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to hockey. And the Stanley Cup playoffs final is underway at the moment, and we'll be right back.
Crazy game so far.
Has it? What's the game? What's 3-2 Oilers right now? Wow, it's 3-2 Oilers with 12 minutes to go in the second period. We should have previewed this earlier in the show, I guess, but we're going to preview this game, talk about the keys to this game and how it's been going overall. You're watching the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. I'm joined today with my co-host and good friend, Jake Daley, and we're right back into it here. We've been going on for a while. Let's keep it going. We're in the final stretch here. In our next segment here, we're going to switch gears over to the NHL, talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs final, Game 2 that's underway right now, 3-2 in favor of the Oilers. And
Actually, 3-3 now.
Is it 3-3?
Goals just scored by Dmitry Kulikov.
No way.
Within the last couple minutes. So
Wow.
This is now a 3-3 game, 10 minutes to go in the second period.
3-3
Absolute
in the
barn-burner.
second period.
Seth Jones having scored for the Panthers. Draisaitl scoring for the Oilers right now, also has an assist. This is a great game.
This is a
Andrew Kane also getting on the board.
Wow. I'm not going to
All
lie.
right, who do we think is going to come out of this, though? So we're going to preview, but we're in the game right
We're
now.
in it.
But it's tied. It's tied. So, it's still, we're all right. The outcome is not, determined yet. We can still kind of preview. So who did you have?
Well, I had the Panthers coming out and putting a good beating on the Oilers in this one, especially the way that they
Really?
lost Game 1. I thought they were going to come out with a sense of urgency, especially the way that they just let Game 1. They didn't even let it slip away. They literally handed it on a silver platter. To have a delay of game penalty in the last 2 minutes of overtime and sudden death.
Unreal.
You don't even let it get to second overtime. You just give up a simple.
That was a sloppy game, too. Just overall, really sloppy game in Game 1, I thought. Just with some of the penalties and stuff. But,
for sure.
yeah.
It was a phenomenal game, though. What a game that Game 1 was. Going back and forth. The Oilers tying it up late in that game. Or, no, it was the scoring got on early, similar to this game. It was 2-3, and then the Panthers tying it up, just like they just did, and sending it into overtime late in that one. Draisaitl being the hero of that one. The question is, though, Connor McDavid needs to step up in a big way in this game. He is the main threat for the Edmonton Oilers. If the Oilers want to have any chance of winning this game, he needs to step up in a big way. His 2 assists that he has now is definitely exactly what they need, and he's stepping up exactly like he did at the tail end of Game 1 with the game-winning assist on that one, assisting Draisaitl. But he needs to be the reason why they win this game. He needs to take over on the offensive end and be just really a spear to pierce that Panthers back line, because that Panthers defense is electric on that back line. What are your thoughts on this game so far, and who did you have winning this game?
Honestly, I kind of thought it was a toss-up too. I was leaning more towards the Panthers right now. Just kind of how game one shook out. I think they were going to bounce back from this. And it kind of seems like they got out to the early lead. They scored the first goal. Edmonton responded with 2. That's kind of been back and forth. But obviously they were down 3-2, able to tie it back up. I think they're certainly still in this game. And honestly, I think kind of being able to come back from some adversity makes it almost more likely that they're going to win this game. Connor McDavid, though, a guy that every time you see him touch the puck, you have to watch. Absolutely electrifying. Just the fastest dude I've ever seen skate in the NHL, clearly. But what he can do with the puck in his hand is just incredible. Can make absolute magic. He needs to kind of step it up. I just wonder if he's actually going to turn on the goal scoring right now. He's getting his assist in, which obviously assists are still very crucial, very much a big part of hockey. But is Connor McDavid going to start scoring some goals?
He needs to. And he needs to get his offensive game going. Assist is phenomenal. He has 3 assists in 2 games. Like, what else can you ask for? You would think. But when you think of Connor McDavid, you think of a goal scorer, a bona fide shot maker that shows up in big moments. And whether that's going to be later on in the series, whether that's going to be, he needs to step up in a big way. And right now, it's been Draisaitl that's been doing it. 2 goals now. He has assists in this game as well. I'm trying to think. This Oilers team is just so stacked offensively. They have the pieces that can they have the offense that can crack this Panthers back line. The thing is that I want to point out, this is something that Jeremy pointed out yesterday. The normal host of the show, he will be back here on Monday, but the fact that the Panthers have been playing have gone to the Stanley Cup 3 times in a row. They won last year. They went to the Cup 2 years ago against the Vegas Golden Knights, and now they're back here now. This is 3 years in a row where they've played hockey for 9 months straight, 8-9 months straight, and have had 2-3 months layover. This is a team that is fatigued, getting a little bit on the older side. You have Sam Bennett, you have Verhaeghe that's been there for a while, Lindell. You bring in Marchand in a midseason trade. He's getting up there in age. You obviously still have Matthew Tkachuk, who's playing at a big level on the back line. On a whole, these guys have been playing hockey for a long time. And is that wear and tear, especially the way that they play, the physicality that they play with, the hits that they take, especially in hockey, could that be bothering them a little bit? And is that playing a role? Could that play a role as this series draws on?
I think it certainly could be a factor right now. I think what you said at the end there might ring more true of when we get to game 4, potential game 5, that's when I think we're really going to start seeing this fatigue set in. But you're right. I mean, over the past 3 seasons, these guys have had short summers. They haven't had a long time to kind of have a layoff, let their bodies heal up, let them rest. That's critical, right? When you think of you're playing a sport at the highest level, especially such a physical one in terms of hockey, especially the way that the Panthers play. There's such a physical presence up front, just in terms of their overall style of play. That's certainly going to take a toll on your body. When you're playing 9 months out of the year, when you're playing super physical all the time and doing it for 3 straight years, that's a lot. And I think it's certainly something that we can see later on in the series. I think we're starting to see a little bit of signs of it right now, but I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing this be a potential bigger factor down the line, I think.
For sure. I think another big question mark that honestly hasn't really shown up yet so far in this series, but I think there's going to be a game eventually, and that's going to be Stuart Skinner. Stuart Skinner is such an X factor for this series, the way he's played all playoffs long. A game that comes to mind when you think of Stuart Skinner, game 1 between the Stars and the Oilers in the Western Conference Finals. When you have a 3-1 lead going into the third period, you know you're going to win this game. Most likely 90% of the time you're going to win. But when you have a period where your goalkeeper gives up 5 goals in one period, you can't have that. And this is something that we've seen time and time again with Skinner. It was a big reason why the Oilers were down 3-0 last year in the Stanley Cup final, and they had to climb their way out of it. On the other side, you have Sergei Bobrovsky, who's playing phenomenal hockey. He's been an iron brick wall in the back line. He had phenomenal saves in overtime late in that game one. He's a big reason why the Panthers are as good as they are, and he just makes that back line of the Florida Panthers stick out even more. Their defense is phenomenal, but when you have a brick wall like Bobrovsky behind it, it's basically impossible to score on the Florida Panthers. It definitely helps to have a phenomenal offense like the Oilers have, but that is the storyline of this one. It's a phenomenal offense against a phenomenal defense, and that's why the series is so exciting and interesting to watch. But yeah,
as you were talking, we just got a Brad Marchand goal.
Let's
to
go.
put the Florida Panthers up 4-3 with 7 minutes left in the second period.
Brad Marchand.
That's big. Yeah, that's huge. I think another big thing here with this series is going to be penalty minutes. We saw in game one a crazy amount of penalties, and we've already started to see that too in game two. 2 of the total goals were on power plays. Both teams in double-digit minutes already on penalties. So I think this is going to be something. Who's going to have more discipline? Who's going to be able to mess up less and kind of capitalize on the other team's mistakes? I think that's going to play a factor here too.
For sure. And that goes down to experience. That's what that boils down to. And honestly, that favors the Florida Panthers with their experience. Obviously, you have a bunch of young guys, a bunch of great players on the Oilers, and they did almost come back from 3-0 down. But when you have a guy like Brad Marchand that's won a title before with the Bruins, you have the Panthers that are defending champions. You have Bobrovsky who's playing phenomenal hockey. Across the board, you have a bunch of guys there. Youth, you have depth, you have veteranship across the board. So the Panthers they're one of the hardest. Honestly, this Panthers team is borderline one of the best teams that we've seen in hockey in a long time. I think in a way it speaks to the Oilers, but it also speaks to the challenge in front of the Oilers right now. Oilers, obviously, third, they haven't brought it. Canada has not won a championship in 30 years, so they have a lot of momentum behind them and a lot of people backing them. But this is a tough challenge for them. Sorry, I cut you off, by the way, Jake.
No, you're good. But mind you, I just want to say this Brad Marchand goal, it was a shorthanded goal too. Edmonton was on the power play right now. So just kind of showcasing how dangerous this Florida Panthers team can be at any given moment, how deep they are, how talented they are. Having a shorthanded goal in the second to take the lead in the Stanley Cup Finals game two, pretty incredible stuff there.
Absolutely. And one last thing I want to point out about Brad Marchand, a guy that was in Boston for years, one of my favorite players growing up. I grew up in the Boston area, so I grew up watching Brad Marchand play hockey with Bergeron, with Zdeno Chara in that group back in the day. Brad Marchand is a phenomenal hockey player, and his experience is on another level right now. It's showing. He's had 2 goals in 2 games now. He was a big part. He had a game-winning goal against the Hurricanes last round. He had a game-winning goal against the Hurricanes. Had a game-winning goal against the Maple Leafs as well 2 rounds ago. His experience is on another level right now, and this is a big reason why the Panthers traded for him. The Bruins weren't willing to pay him. Not only that, but they're kind of at that point that they're just ready to blow up the team. And it's just nice to see that Marchand's able to get back to the stage. Obviously, if we think back to his Bruins days, 2019, Game 7, they lost in the Cup final. 2022, they went up against these Panthers and lost in 7 games. This is a guy that's been waiting, that's been itching for a championship. And to be back here on the stage, he's not going to let it slip. He's not going to take it lightly. So just had to give him some props right there. But yeah, I mean, so it's still 4-3 right now, Jake. We're still looking at a 4-3 game.
Yes, we are. As of right now, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. We'll hopefully catch the end of it once
sure.
we get off air later.
And we'll give an update before we hop off the air as well. But I'm going to take one last short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears into a sport we don't usually cover all too much. UFC, we got a big UFC card planned this weekend. Tomorrow, actually, we have Mehrob different spelling than my name. But we have Mehrob going up against Sean O'Malley. Big star-studded matchup. Mehrob beating Sean O'Malley to win the title before. And we're going to preview the rest of the UFC card, as well as some news that came out, just breaking news right now, as well as some news that came out earlier today. You're watching GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Jake Daley here. And jumping into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears into a sport we don't normally cover all that much here on the GSMC Sports Network. The UFC is obviously one of those sports that only happens once a month with its main cards. And honestly, a sport that only happens once a week. So we don't have a whole lot to talk about it, but there's definitely a lot to talk about today. We have a big UFC card planned tomorrow, UFC 316. We have Mehrob going up against Sugar Sean O'Malley. One of the best two-star-studded matchups. Two young stars blossoming in the UFC today. Obviously, Mehrob beat Sugar to win the Bantamweight Championship about a year ago now. The rematch finally taking place tomorrow night. On top of that, we have Kayla Harrison going up against Juliana Pena in the co-main event. That should be a phenomenal fight as well as some news that just recently came out. And thank you, Jake, for breaking that news to me off the air. I want to let you deliver that because this is your news right here, brother. Let's go.
Yeah, so Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison, obviously fighting off tomorrow night. Going to square off. And then it's been announced Amanda Nunes unretiring. She's gonna call out the winner of Kayla Harrison, Juliana Pena, try to take back her crown. That's super exciting. One of the greatest female fighters we've ever seen perform. Absolutely dominant during her peak run. This is big time news. Whoever comes out of this Kayla Harrison, Juliana Pena fight, they're gonna be staring down at Amanda Nunes later on down the line.
It's so much fun, man. The UFC is such a wacky world. The Lioness coming out of retirement, just retired just about 2 years ago now, but she has hinted at it a couple times now. Every time Kayla Harrison has brought up her name, and she has brought it up quite a bit. Amanda Nunes has had something to say, whether it's a teaser, she's been hinting at it, saying that she's got a few more fights left in her, and now she's made it official. She will fight the winner of Pena and Kayla Harrison, and something tells me, regardless of if Kayla Harrison wins or loses, she's going to call out Harrison. Harrison, obviously one of the best young stars in the UFC, and she's she's on an absolute tear. Honestly,
It's crazy right now. She's favored. She's the challenger, and she's favored in this fight against
she's
Juliana Pena.
I'm
That just kind of shows you how highly regarded she is across the entire MMA community throughout the entire world. Former champion at PFL, absolutely dominant, 18-1 in her professional career. That's crazy though, being favored as the challenger. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
she's taken the UFC by storm. Just entering, what was it, 2 years, 3 years max that she's been in the UFC. She only still had 5 or 6 fights and has been on an absolute tear. Has not lost in the UFC since she joined, and now she's fighting for the title with Amanda Nunes, the GOAT of the women's division in the UFC. Her and Ronda Rousey are just, you can say, are the two GOATs of the UFC on the women's category. And for her, Kayla Harrison, to have her name linked in that conversation, and Amanda Nunes unretiring with on the eve of Kayla Harrison's the opportunity to win a title, this is a great opportunity for both of them, both women. So, but
so, Mehrob, as much as we love talking about the UFC, I have some even more breaking news
oh boy,
regarding the House settlement versus the NCAA. It has been officially approved. Schools, universities are going to be allowed to pay their student athletes directly now, starting on July 1st.
wow,
So big shift there in the college athletics industry. So just wanted to share that for everybody, because that's going to be a big topic coming up here on the GSMC Sports Podcast in the next couple of days, for sure.
Wow. Yeah, we're talking about that. That is honestly, y'all leave this one to you. Do you want to keep? You want to dive into
Yeah,
that
I
one?
mean, this is something I've been following pretty much every day. Judge Claudia Wilkin officially kind of approving the House settlement, which was the House versus NCAA, kind of this overarching bunch of antitrust laws, different things that they were kind of trying to come to an agreement with. But the main thing here is revenue sharing. And it's kind of going to be under almost kind of a salary cap, I would kind of say it. Schools are going to be able to pay up to $20.5 million to their student athletes every single year. And they can kind of divvy that up however they want. But that's going to kind of be the limit coming from these institutions. It's a huge change, absolutely seismic shift in college athletics, going from a sport where, or an industry, I guess, where that was always the big thing. You're athletes. You're not getting paid. You're amateurs. You're not. Look at where we are now. Like, I mean, the universities directly paying athletes almost as employees. That's going to be another kind of interesting thing here, is how that shakes out with employment status. But this is huge news. It's going to have a big shift, a big impact throughout the college athletics world. Obviously, football is the big thing we think about here, but this is going to have impacts across basketball, women's sports, Olympic sports, pretty much everything. So absolutely huge. I don't know if you had any thoughts too, Rob, but
Let me ask you this: Do you think this helps smaller schools with their NIL issues, or does this play in favor of the big schools like the SEC, the powerhouse schools, in getting big name recruits?
so this is going to be an interesting thing here too, where there's almost going to be kind of a clearinghouse of sorts that's kind of built into this with accounting giant Deloitte, one of the big four accounting firms in the United States, throughout the world. Deloitte's kind of spearheading this. They basically are going to have this technology that's going to look through the past years of NIL deals, look at pro athlete endorsements, look at different kind of things across the landscape, and then kind of value some of these NIL deals. And Deloitte, in a presentation to some of the power conferences, they said that at one point, 90% of some of these third-party NIL deals, that's a collective or 90% of those would not have been approved under this new clearinghouse. Anything over $600 has to kind of be approved through an official medium. So it's going to be interesting of which side of the coin does this end up on. I think in the short term, at least, it's going to help some of these smaller schools. They're not going to have, your starting left tackle who was all conference this year. He's not going to go leave for a Power 4 school because he's not going to get $750,000 a year anymore. So I think some of that stuff is going to help some of these smaller schools. But then also that revenue cap, the $20.5 million, that's what it is. It's a cap. You don't have to spend that much. So how schools are going to divvy that up, how much schools are going to kind of determine where this money goes, that's going to be interesting too. Do you have a program like Duke where obviously basketball is king, but football is kind of coming up? How do you kind of balance the money there? That's going to be something that's really going to be crucial here with this whole.
So this is pretty much a cap on all sports. Per school, they have their own cap limit, but it's across all sports now. Before, we used to see caps for each sport. Like football used to have its own cap. Basketball had its own cap. It would used to be across the board with that. But now
it's pretty much all under one umbrella. And then it's kind of up to the schools to determine how they want to divvy that up. And that's going to be interesting. There's a couple other, I guess, items that are in this settlement. One of them is scholarship limits. So I have to double check on what actually got approved here. But there was at one point going to be a hard scholarship limit. There was no longer going to be walk-ons, essentially, for a lot of sports. Football was going to have a hard roster limit of 105 people, where, normally right now you have 85 scholarship players, and then you probably have 40 to 50 walk-ons that are kind of filling out your team. Those guys are normally at 120, 130 people on that roster. Then you look at all these other sports, I know a kid that was a preferred walk-on for swimming, track and field all of those spots would be gone. So that was one of the judge's big issues with this kind of settlement right now. So I do have to double check on that as kind of what's going on with the scholarships, because that's also going to have a big impact, not on football, but obviously on football a little bit, but really across the board there, especially in some of those smaller sports.
For sure. Scholarships play such a big role in college football, college athletics. I say college football. I mean college athletics as a whole. Letting these student athletes being able to just be students and join the colleges as a whole. Scholarships play a big role in that. And it's something completely different than being paid off the field. It's a completely different ballgame. So if they're cutting money from the scholarships to do this, that's a different story. Whether there's going to be ample ones or there's going to be cutting them, that is a big part of this. We're going to be taking a deep dive into it. We're 100% talking about this tomorrow as well. So when we get back here tomorrow, we're going to come back here and say, this is breaking news, but this is the full story. We'll have all those layers dived in and ready to go. But yeah, initial reactions, definitely this is going to change the whole landscape of the college athletics as a whole. Without NIL, it doesn't let colleges, it's gonna not only make everything transparent from here on out. Everybody knows how much everybody's getting paid. The caps are gonna be known, but these midnight drives, these little fundraising programs that the NIL likes to run on the side, those are not going to be anymore. It's all going to be under one thing.
We'll see. It's going to be really interesting, kind of how these collectives go from here, kind of what happens with some of these NIL deals. But yeah, big, huge industry shift across college athletics for sure.
Yeah, we might just put a pin in it there. We'll probably.
I think that's a good place. We're going to be talking about this tomorrow, the next day, probably, for a good part of the future, I'd say. So,
1,000%. Yeah, we'll put a pin in it there, and we'll resume this conversation first thing tomorrow in our show. You'll get both of us, same thing as always. Me and Jake will be right back here at 8:00 tomorrow. But thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to leave a positive review in the comments below. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what we can improve upon, because you guys are a big part of what we do here at the GSMC Sports Network. For more content and updates, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Thank you once again. On behalf of myself and Jake Daley, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your nights. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.